Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I'm back today to talk about the 6 most common health conditions for a cat. There's also diseases, but conditions I can explain better. So we're going to do those first. We'll work our way up from the bottom, so number 6. And if you think you know what the number 1 cat condition is, you are more than welcome to try and guess. It's reasonably easy to guess, but we'll see. Hi, Vanessa. Okay, number 6 is eye problems. Because they spend a lot of time rolling around and up on catwalks and outside and pawing things, it's quite common for them to get things in their eye, which of course is also common for dogs. But in terms of health-wise, it's conjunctivitis, cataracts, glaucoma, trauma, or a virus. And these are emergency conditions. If they get something in their eye, if their eye actually displaces, which is common in dogs with shortened faces, so the little Pekingese or things like that, it's more common for their eyes to pop out. Hi, Dante. And these are all emergency conditions. So take them to the vet. Absolutely get them looked at, because for eye conditions, there's not a whole lot you can do. I mean, you can give them vitamins to strengthen their eye, vitamin A, which is important, things like that. But conjunctivitis is inflammation, so you can help a lot with inflammation with things like coconut oil if you can get your cat to eat it. I find cats are pickier eaters than dogs. We have a guess. I think the most common cat condition is fur balls. You will find out when we get there. Number 5 is diarrhea, because there's a lot of different reasons for diarrhea, and it's the same in dogs. Parasites, a bad food allergy, they ate something they shouldn't have eaten and it's coming out the wrong way. An infection, even liver disease can cause diarrhea, because if their body can't filter out the toxins that they're ingesting, then it's going to go straight to their intestines, and it's just going to not be fun to clean up after. The good thing about cats is that they do go in a litter box, so it is slightly easier to clean if it's not explosive. So that's helpful. If the diarrhea lasts for more than 24 hours, do go to the vet. It can be an emergency condition, especially in young ones, kittens and puppies, because they're dehydrating. They're not getting any nutrients because everything's just coming straight out the other end. So do make sure to take them to the vet. If there's blood in the diarrhea, do go to the vet, because there could be a perforation in the bowel or something like that, or some internal bleeding that's leaking out. If they have a fever and diarrhea, that's something else to look into, because there's some type of inflammation or reaction going on in the body. And if they're really tired and they're not eating, typically with Kaya, I know she's not feeling well if she doesn't want to eat her food, because usually she races me down the stairs to the kitchen downstairs where I make her food and inhales the whole thing. So if she doesn't eat, I know that something's wrong, and I do an acupressure session on her. But for those that don't have that, knowing your pet's typical behavior a lot can help with that. If you know how often they go to the bathroom or what their typical stool looks like, that helps a lot. Number 4, the lovely tapeworm. For those who don't know what that is, I did a video about parasites, but it's an intestinal tapeworm that's usually fairly long, and it's not pleasant. They're typically overdone in movies. If you haven't seen one that has it, they can be up to 2 feet long. They're little white worms, not big in diameter, but they are the longest of the intestinal parasites. So typically the easiest way to tell if your pet has one is they will not eat, they'll have diarrhea, and there'll be little white grain-like or rice-like segments in the poop, which is actually part of the tapeworm. So you do have to deworm your pet. You can give them black walnut, which is a natural dewormer. It's a homeopathic, it comes in a bottle like this, and that will flush out the tapeworm. Typically it causes weight loss and malnutrition, because again, the tapeworm is eating the nutrients that your pet is ingesting, and it's just typically they'll have vomiting or diarrhea if they have a tapeworm, because either it's blocking something or the nutrients aren't getting down and they'll start to lose weight and things like that, and it can be really, really dangerous. Sometimes fleas are carriers of tapeworms, so if your pet has fleas and they accidentally swallow one, it's possible for them to get a tapeworm from that. So while that is very annoying, fleas is the next one, so we're going to go over that. For those who don't know, fleas are little tiny insects that cause your pet to itch like crazy. They can cause rashes, hot spots, and hair loss if the pet keeps scratching. They can actually rub themselves raw from fleas if they're not taken care of. There's also a risk of anemia from blood loss from scratching and things like that because the fleas actually take the blood. For fleas, diatomaceous earth is a wonderful thing. You can typically buy it in a big jar, and it essentially suffocates the fleas. So you want to put it on all of the carpets, bedding, anywhere your pet spends time, and then let it sit for a while and then vacuum it out. It'll bring up all the dead fleas, hopefully, but do be aware that they do have a life cycle and that you have to do it for several days to make sure that you get all the life stages of the flea. Giving your pet a bath to try and get rid of most of them will help. Try not to shave your dog unless you absolutely have a really, really super coated Samoyed or something, because shaving them will help to get rid of the fleas, but then for the dog or cat to grow that back will take them a really long time. Margot says she just ordered some. Good. Hopefully you won't have to use it, but when you need it, it's very, very handy. Okay, number 2, we're getting there, is feline lower urinary tract disease. And it's quite common for them to get urinary tract problems because sometimes they don't pee, sometimes they take in too many toxins and something gets blocked. Urinary tract stones and things like that are quite common in cats, and they're most common in cats that are overweight and those that eat dry food because they're not getting enough moisture and or exercise. Of course, if you're a healthy weight and things like that, you don't really have to worry about that. But if your cat is overweight and eats kibble, this is something that you need to think about, because urinary tract disease, if they can't go pee, that's a medical emergency because their bladder can actually rupture and things can leak inside if you don't take them to the vet. So you need to make sure that if they're eating dry food, you're adding, well, ideally you would add fresh food to that, but add a little bit of water to make sure that they're getting the moisture that they need, and try and get them a little more exercise so they don't stress their body that way, because any additional stress will make it more likely that they will present with something. The number 1 most common cat issue, which Dante was pretty close, is kind of hairballs. It's vomiting, because they do vomit up hairballs, so technically that counts. The problem with the vomiting is that, again, they can quickly dehydrate because literally nothing is getting down to their stomach if they keep throwing up and throwing up. If there is blood in their vomit, take them to the vet. But vomiting can be caused by so many things I can't even list them all. Most commonly, it's from eating something they shouldn't. A hairball, an infection, or urinary tract disease can cause the vomiting too. Diabetes can cause vomiting, and of course hairballs. But vomiting, there's a lot of things you can do. With dogs, they typically suggest feeding rice or chicken broth or something to get some nutrients into their stomach to soak up the acid that's there. If it's a minor case of vomiting, what I do with Kaya is give her a spoonful of pumpkin, just canned pumpkin on a plate. And if she feels like eating it, she will. If she doesn't, she doesn't. But usually she'll go outside and eat some grass, and that helps soak up the acid that's in her stomach too. With cats, sometimes water helps a lot. Anything that can soak up acid. So anything that, I know you're not really supposed to give cats carbs, but anything that soaks it up. A lot of times when they're vomiting, you want to not feed them anything that they have to chew or grind, and they could, because they'll likely just vomit it back up, especially if it's a serious case. But if they are vomiting, try and give them water, but take away the food for a little bit just to make sure that you're not putting anything else in there that they're going to throw up. Margot says, neither of my cats will eat wet food. One does eat mice and other animals he hunts, but the oldest one refuses to eat anything other than dry. She always does have water. Have you tried adding any supplements to the dry food? Because I find that senior cats are definitely more picky when it comes to food. But some animals just have a specific preference and they will only eat kibble. Kaya, to switch her to kibble was the easiest thing, other than her stomach taking some time to adjust. But she was on the kibble and we used to have to coax her to eat her breakfast, which she would finish by dinner time. And then the same process would repeat itself. And it was really exhausting for us. But now with the raw, I put it down within 5 minutes. It's gone. She says, yes, she'll eat it that way. Okay, good. A lot of times, dogs get dehydrated less than cats, even though they spend time outside, because dogs typically get more exercise and they drink more water. So dehydration in cats is not common, but it's a side effect of a lot of health conditions. So because they're either vomiting everything up, or diarrhea and everything's going out, or they have a urinary tract disease and nothing's getting through, there's a lot of reasons that they could have that. But I could also go over diseases. Most of them we've already gone through, but I think I'll save that for another time because it's a whole nother page of information. I hope that answered some of your questions or concerns. If your pet or if your cat does have any of those conditions, it is quite common. If it is a medical emergency, do be sure to take them to the vet. If you have any questions or want to know what should I do or how should I approach this, feel free to send me a message anytime. Next week's video is about colic, because I haven't done a lot of horse videos and I was going through my pathology book for my exam on Friday. And now we're going to get into some horse and cat stuff too, because I know a lot of my videos are about dogs because Kai is a good example, but I want to make sure to get everybody working on a flea issue. Uh-oh. Well, I hope that DE comes soon, because it'll literally suffocate them from the inside because it penetrates their skin. Let me know how the flea issue goes, and I will see you next week.